She thought her best years were behind her, until one night changed everything. It began quietly, almost imperceptibly, like the soft hum of the moon touching the ocean. For years she had tried to fight what she thought was inevitable, the slow fading of her own reflection. The creams that promised miracles had stopped working, the diets brought no glow, and even the affirmations felt hollow. She looked in the mirror and saw not just lines, but stories, some beautiful, some painful, and yet beneath it all she could feel something still alive, still waiting. That night, she heard of a strange truth whispered among women who refused to surrender to time. They said beauty was not lost with age, only asleep. That aging began not on the skin, but in the silence of the soul, and that sleep itself could heal what the day had broken. It sounded impossible, even absurd, and yet something about it resonated so deeply she couldn't look away. What if her body was not deteriorating, but remembering? What if her skin was not dull, but tired from carrying too many unspoken words? What if her youth was not gone, but waiting for her in the stillness she had been avoiding? That night, as she lay down, something inside her softened, a surrender she had never allowed before. She felt the pillow embrace her like the earth embraces a seed, promising renewal, not through effort, but through rest. The rhythm of her breath became the rhythm of life itself, and she began to wonder if healing could truly begin in silence. The ancients believed that sleep was sacred, not an escape, but a passage between worlds. In Egypt they spoke of the night temples, where women lay beneath oils of lotus and gold, not to dream, but to rejuvenate. In Japan, there were rituals where the air was infused with plum blossoms, teaching that true beauty was not seen but felt, not achieved but remembered. And in hidden African villages, they said that the moonlight itself was medicine, that under its glow women could reverse time, not by fighting it, but by merging with it. Could it be that every cell in her body had been waiting for her to simply rest? Science, too, had begun to confirm what wisdom had always known. The body repairs itself not through resistance, but through surrender. During sleep, the skin renews, the mind resets, the hormones rebalance, and deep within something awakens. The blueprint of youth, perfectly preserved, patiently waiting. She realized then that perhaps she had never truly rested. She had slept, yes, but not surrendered. Her nights were filled with worry, her mornings with comparison, her days with effort. She had forgotten what it meant to be still. Tonight would be different. She placed her hand gently over her heart and whispered, not words, but intention. As her eyes closed, she imagined every cell exhaling the day. The tension in her jaw melted, the weight on her shoulders lifted, and she felt herself sinking into a deeper kind of stillness, one that did not ask for control, but offered peace. In that stillness, something extraordinary began. Her heartbeat slowed, her breathing deepened, and her nervous system, the silent guardian of youth, began to recalibrate. She could almost feel her body thanking her, as if every cell had been waiting for this permission. The rhythm of sleep became a sacred song, and her mind, once loud with doubt, grew quiet enough to hear it. It wasn't the sound of words, but of memory. The memory of being whole, the memory of knowing that she was enough, the memory of her natural beauty before the noise of the world told her otherwise. Aging, she realized, had never been her enemy. It was simply the body asking to be heard, asking to be held. What if every wrinkle was not decay but wisdom? What if every mark was not loss but language, the body speaking through time? What if the secret to reversing aging was not found in youth, but in presence? The night held her in its soft, maternal arms. Every inhale drew in calm, every exhale released resistance. She could feel energy moving, not seen but sensed, like light beneath the skin. She wasn't trying to be beautiful. She was remembering that she already was. For decades she had believed beauty was something to chase, but as her mind drifted between wake and dream, she began to see the truth. Beauty was never something to earn. It was something to remember. The body was never designed to age as quickly as it does in stress. It only forgets its rhythm when disconnected from rest. And now, as she floated deeper, she imagined her body aligning again with the ancient intelligence that had once shaped her in her mother's womb. Effortless, perfect, divine. the wisdom of the universe flowing through her bloodstream, rewriting her biology with the language of peace. Each heartbeat carried renewal. Each breath carried youth. She could almost feel her skin responding, not tightening in fear, but softening in harmony. The face follows the heart. When the heart is calm, the face glows. When the heart is grateful, the skin awakens. She saw images in her mind, not dreams, but symbols. The moon reflected in still water, a single rose unfolding at midnight, the glow of a candle untouched by wind. She realized they were not images, but messages. The moon was her rhythm. The rose was her awakening. The candle was her beauty, eternal, unwavering, waiting to be seen. What if all she needed to do was trust? To trust that her body already knows how to heal, to trust that her sleep is sacred, to trust that every night she closes her eyes, she steps into a silent temple within herself, the temple of rejuvenation, built not of stone, but of surrender. The temple where time does not exist, only renewal. Tonight she was not falling asleep, she was rising inward, and somewhere between one breath and the next, she understood what the wise women had meant all along. You do not reverse aging by chasing youth. You reverse it by remembering your timelessness. The night carried her into that remembrance. Every thought softened into silence, every fear into faith, and as her consciousness drifted, she could almost hear the earth whisper back, "You are not fading, you are becoming light." For centuries, they spoke of a night that heals from the inside out, a night where the body, freed from the weight of the mind, begins to rewrite its own story. The story of fatigue becomes one of renewal. The story of aging becomes one of remembering. And the story of imperfection becomes one of grace. As she slept deeper, her breath fell into rhythm with something far older than time, the natural pulse of creation itself. Every inhale carried wisdom. Every exhale carried release. Her body was no longer separate from the universe. It was part of its gentle, endless dance. The science of sleep had long hinted at this truth. During the deepest hours of rest, the body's hidden healers awaken. The growth hormones rise, repairing tissue and restoring elasticity. The mitochondria, the ancient spark within every cell, begin to glow brighter, turning energy into renewal. Even the DNA, that sacred script of life, starts to repair itself in the quiet darkness, erasing the small damages written by daylight. Yet science could only measure the mechanics, not the magic. Because beyond the biology there was a spirit guiding the process, the same unseen intelligence that causes a flower to bloom or a wound to close. She could feel it now, like a soft warmth moving through her, aligning her body with its original design. It was not about youth in the mirror, but harmony in the soul. Her mind drifted to the stories of the women who came before her, the priestesses, the mothers, the healers, who understood the sacred art of sleeping in intention. In ancient Egypt, they would speak affirmations before rest, believing the night carried their words into the divine fabric of creation. In the Himalayas, women would sleep beneath silk, soaked in rose water, not for luxury, but because they believed roses taught the skin how to love again. And in old African wisdom, sleep was not just the end of the day, it was the return to the source. When you close your eyes, the elders said, you do not disappear, you return. Return to what? She wondered. Return to who? Perhaps to the woman she was before the world told her who to be, before she doubted her own reflection, before she learned to measure her worth in years. The night became a bridge between who she was and who she had always been. The rhythm of her heartbeat was no longer a clock ticking toward age. It was a drumbeat calling her home. With every pulse, her blood carried oxygen, nutrients, and light, the hidden energy of renewal. Her muscles released old memories. Her organs sang in quiet synchrony. Even her skin, that loyal mirror of her inner world, began to glow from within, nourished not by products but by peace. How could something so simple, rest, hold such power? Because true rest was not absence, but presence. It was the art of listening inwardly, of returning to the intelligence of the body. She realized she had been living in fragments, thinking one thing, feeling another, doing something else entirely. But tonight, for the first time in years, she was whole, Mind, body, and spirit were moving together in quiet unison, like the tides under the moon. She began to sense the language of her body, the quiet codes written in breath, warmth, and vibration. When the body feels safe, it begins to repair. When the body feels loved, it begins to bloom. Safety is the soil of rejuvenation. Love is the sunlight of healing. This was the secret all along, not to fight time, but to create safety within it. The more she trusted the process, the deeper her healing went. The night was not stealing her youth, it was restoring her rhythm. Every second of deep rest was erasing years of stress. Every slow breath was softening the invisible knots that had tightened over decades of striving. She could almost see her cells smiling, glowing with quiet gratitude. Sleep had become prayer. Healing had become surrender. In her mind's eye, she saw herself standing at the edge of a tranquil lake, its surface reflecting the stars. She realized the lake was her body, her soul, her potential for stillness. When she allowed the surface to calm, everything beneath could breathe again. When she stopped fighting, the water reflected her true self, luminous, ageless, divine. What if youth was not a phase but a vibration? What if every woman carries within her the frequency of vitality, and all she needs to do is tune into it again? As she sank deeper into this awareness, her subconscious began to awaken. Old beliefs rose like mist. I'm too old. It's too late, as I've lost my glow. And one by one, they dissolved. In their place came new truths, soft but strong. I am renewal. My body knows how to heal. I am safe in my beauty. Her dreams became temples of remembrance. She saw faces of women who had discovered this before her, glowing, calm, radiant not because of youth, but because of peace. She understood now that rejuvenation was not the return to 20, but the return to harmony, to the frequency of love that makes everything look alive. Even her thoughts were being rewritten by the night. The harshness in her inner voice softened, the comparisons melted away, the exhaustion in her spirit lifted. She felt weightless, as if gravity itself had loosened its grip. Her body was floating in an ocean of healing, each wave a rhythm of life renewing itself. She was not dreaming, she was transforming. The cells of her skin absorbed the silent symphony of rest, collagen rebuilding, hydration restoring, inflammation fading. Her body was responding to her faith. For the first time, she realized beauty is not achieved, it's allowed. The more she allowed, the more she glowed. The more she surrendered, the younger she felt. The night was no longer an enemy of time, but a friend of transformation. In that moment, she understood something she could never forget. The skin follows the soul. When the soul is at peace, the skin remembers its light. When the mind releases its fear, the body releases its age. When love flows freely, the face becomes timeless. She was healing not from the outside in, but from the inside out. And as the first waves of true sleep wrapped her completely, she felt her body whisper back to her, "You are not aging. You are remembering how to shine." Deep within the silence of sleep, something exquisite was happening. Not seen, not heard, but deeply felt. Her body was not simply resting, it was listening. Every heartbeat was a message of renewal, every breath an agreement with life itself. The cells, once burdened by years of rush and worry, began to awaken to a forgotten rhythm. It was as though a hidden orchestra had begun to play inside her, the melody of youth composed by peace. She did not force it. She did not seek it. She allowed it. In this permission, her biology transformed. The energy that once fueled anxiety now powered repair. The hormones that once responded to fear began to serve beauty. Cortisol quieted, oxytocin rose, and with it, a wave of serenity washed over her body. Her pulse slowed, her temperature balanced, her skin, that sacred veil between her and the world, began to breathe again. There, in that invisible dialogue between body and mind, aging was no longer a process of loss, but one of remembering. For so long, she had believed that her cells were doomed to decline with time. But what if time was never the enemy? Only imbalance was. What if the body ages not because of years, but because it forgets its rhythm beneath the noise of survival? Tonight, there was no noise. Only rhythm. Only harmony. The deeper she fell into stillness, the clearer the truth became. Youth was not gone, it was dormant, waiting for her belief to call it back. The subconscious, that infinite garden beneath awareness, began to bloom again. Every thought of worthlessness, every belief that beauty fades was being rewritten in silence. The night was doing what no product could, reprogramming her from within. The Japanese once called it Nemuri no Hana, the sleep flower, the sacred energy that blossoms in the body when the mind finally releases control. The Egyptians called it Ka's renewal, the return of life force during night's surrender. Science now calls it parasympathetic restoration, but names mean little. The feeling was what mattered, the deep knowing that she was healing not because of effort, but because of stillness. She was becoming one with the timeless intelligence that designed her. Her blood carried nutrients, not just of food, but of faith. Her nerves released signals not of defense, but of harmony. Even her bones, once heavy with fatigue, vibrated with quiet strength. The body was remembering its divine instruction, to regenerate, to restore, to shine. Each breath drew her deeper into the symphony. The air itself seemed to hum with memory of forests, oceans, and moonlit nights, where all creation pulsed in unity. She began to understand that her body was not separate from the earth. It was made of the same elements. Her cells held minerals once carried by rivers. Her skin glowed with the same light that touched the stars. Her breath moved with the same rhythm as the tides. She was nature, and nature never ages. It cycles, renews, transforms. What if aging was only the misunderstanding of the cycle? What if every wrinkle was not an ending, but a soft beginning, an invitation to awaken to deeper beauty? The kind of beauty that glows through presence, not perfection. As she sank deeper into her dream state, visions appeared, not random, but sacred symbols of her transformation. A spiral of light unfolding from her heart, a mirror made of water, showing her not as she looked but as she truly was, luminous, infinite, whole. The spiral whispered of evolution, the mirror of truth. She was not meant to chase youth. She was meant to expand beyond the illusion of loss. Her body was not her enemy. It was her most loyal companion, tirelessly trying to restore her even when she had forgotten to believe in it. How many nights had she punished it with doubt, exhaustion, self-criticism, and still it healed her every morning, asking for nothing but rest. Tonight, for the first time, she gave it what it had always needed, faith. And faith, when held through sleep, becomes the most powerful medicine of all. She could feel her mind unclenching, her body opening like petals under gentle rain. The lymphatic rivers beneath her skin began to flow freely again, carrying away the debris of yesterday. Her circulation improved, her heartbeat pulsed with gratitude. Her cells seemed to sparkle beneath the surface, whispering thank you. Deep sleep was not absence, it was sacred participation in creation itself. Within it, she was both dreamer and dream, healing herself through the consciousness of peace. Her skin now glowed from within, not from effort but from harmony. Every cell was alive with light, every system tuned to renewal. Even her brain, that faithful overworked guardian, entered its nightly cleansing, washing away stress, clearing memory, making room for new thoughts, new beliefs, new beginnings. The mind was rewriting her body's story line by line, and the ink it used was calm. In the dark she felt an expansion, as if her entire being was stretching beyond limitation. She realized that beauty was never meant to shrink her into youth, but to expand her into light. True beauty is timeless, because it is not about looking young. It is about remembering eternity. Every woman who sleeps with love in her heart heals in ways no mirror can measure, because the glow of youth is not in the skin. It's in the vibration of peace. That night, the vibration filled her completely. Her dreams became rivers of memory, flowing through lifetimes, showing her faces of herself, child, mother, elder, all beautiful, all eternal. She understood at last that age is not a number, but a frequency. When the frequency of gratitude rises, time dissolves. When the vibration of love fills the body, years fade. The night had no beginning and no end. Only cycles of breath. She was not asleep. She was in ceremony. Her body was the altar, her sleep the offering, her faith the prayer. And in that sacred exchange, creation responded. The cells vibrated higher, the hormones aligned, the energy flowed, and something invisible shifted, not just in her but in the field around her. Healing is contagious when born from truth. The same frequency that restored her body began to radiate into her world, softening her presence, calming her energy, making others feel lighter in her company. That is what real beauty does. It heals more than it shows. And as the night deepened into its quietest hour, she heard it again, the whisper that had started everything. You are not aging. You are returning. Returning to the design of perfection. Returning to the memory of harmony. Returning to the timeless truth that you are the medicine you seek. In that moment, the line between sleep and awakening disappeared. She was no longer waiting for renewal. She was it. A living rhythm of beauty pulsing in sync with the night itself. The deepest part of the night is where miracles begin. It is where silence becomes a sacred language, and the body, finally free from the noise of daylight, speaks clearly again. She did not hear words, yet something within her was being spoken. A conversation between her cells and her soul, a reunion long overdue. Her breath was slow now, steady, rhythmic, the pulse of life remembering its song. Every inhale seemed to draw youth from the unseen. Every exhale released the weight of yesterday. Inside that quiet, the boundaries between years began to blur. The numbers, the fears, the mirrors, they all dissolved into one soft truth. She was not aging, she was evolving. The illusion of time faded as her awareness deepened. Time had always been a construct of the waking mind, not of the heart. And tonight, the heart was leading. It was guiding her through the timeless space where healing becomes effortless. She felt herself floating in a vast ocean of stillness, where no age existed, no face, no name, only energy, luminous and infinite. This was what the ancients called the return, the moment the spirit reconnects with the origin of life. In this state, the body listens to the purest command of all, the command to renew. Deep sleep was the key to that sacred door, and she had just stepped through it. The cells, listening, began to align with divine intelligence. Proteins folded perfectly, collagen awakened, DNA repaired its light. It was as if her body remembered how to speak the original language of creation. She felt warmth spreading through her, not from the outside but from within. It was not heat, it was harmony. Every organ, every fiber, every cell was humming with the same melody. You are safe. You are timeless. You are whole. In that moment, she realized that beauty is not an achievement. It is a memory. The memory of wholeness. The memory of love. The memory of the divine symmetry that exists inside every woman who has ever loved, healed, or created. She began to see herself differently, even in her dreams. The face she saw was softer, calmer, radiant in a way that no mirror could capture. Because true radiance is felt before it is seen. It is the vibration of peace touching every molecule of your being. She remembered stories told by old healers, stories of women who never lost their glow, even when their hair turned silver. They said these women had one secret: they never let the night pass without blessing it. Each evening, before sleep, they would place a hand on their heart and whisper gratitude to their body for carrying them. They would thank their legs for walking them through life, their eyes for witnessing beauty, their hands for creating love. Gratitude was their elixir, invisible yet powerful enough to turn exhaustion into light. And now, lying there between dream and awakening, she did the same. Her body responded like a flower turning toward the sun. Gratitude reawakened flow. Flow reawakened renewal. Renewal reawakened youth. She could feel her cells expanding, glowing, responding. It was not imagination, it was alignment. The brain, sensing gratitude, released a river of healing, serotonin, melatonin, oxytocin, all flowing together, calming inflammation, repairing tissues, and restoring balance. What science measured as chemistry, the soul experienced as grace. She was being rewritten from the inside out. Her sleep was now sacred. It was not the absence of consciousness. It was the deepest presence of life. Even as she slept, she was aware of a new kind of awakening happening beneath the surface. A reconnection between her thoughts and her tissues, between her emotions and her energy. Everything was becoming one field, one vibration, one truth. She understood now why no cream, no routine, no supplement had ever truly worked, because nothing external can heal what the heart has forgotten. The secret was never to force change, but to remember peace. Because peace is the original frequency of beauty. When a woman is at peace, her body begins to bloom again. Her hormones align, her posture softens, her eyes brighten, her skin glows, her aura expands. She becomes magnetic, not from effort but from ease. The glow others see is not youth returning, it is resistance leaving. The night continued to work through her like a quiet healer. Her mind, once filled with chatter, now floated in stillness. Old memories passed by. Mistakes, regrets, moments of self-doubt, but they no longer hurt. They were now just lessons dissolving into light. Forgiveness filled her like air. She realized she had spent years forgiving others, but had forgotten to forgive herself, for aging, for changing, for doubting her worth. But now, in this sacred sleep, forgiveness flowed naturally. It melted through every cell, cleansing the invisible scars that time had left. Forgiveness was the fountain of youth. It purified her from the inside, not to erase her past, but to release its weight. She saw how her body had always carried emotion, the tension in her shoulders, the tightness in her jaw, the fatigue behind her eyes. But with every breath of this night, the emotions loosened, the muscles softened, the body sighed. She was no longer at war with herself. And in that peace, something miraculous occurred. Her energy rose. Not in a dramatic surge, but in a quiet, steady way, like the dawn touching the horizon. The body's electromagnetic field, once dimmed by stress, now pulsed with coherence. Her cells communicated clearly again, her organs sang in harmony, her skin reflected the inner light like morning dew. It was not magic, and it was her natural design. The night was teaching her the greatest secret of all. Healing is not doing, it is remembering. Remembering how to rest, how to love, how to be present. The more she remembered, the more her body restored. Even her dreams had changed. No longer chaotic, they were now visions of renewal. She dreamed of water flowing backward, of trees shedding leaves only to bloom again, of her younger self smiling from within. It was not nostalgia, it was union. The self she had been, the self she was, and the self she was becoming had all merged into one luminous being. She felt ageless, infinite, whole. And as she floated deeper, one question echoed softly in her mind. What if aging was only the mind's way of measuring how long it has forgotten peace? The answer came not in words, but in feeling, a wave of serenity so profound it erased every trace of doubt. Time was gone. All that remained was presence. And presence was youth. Presence was healing. Presence was the ultimate beauty ritual. Somewhere between the last dream and the first light, she felt a shift. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was quiet. So quiet, it could only be heard by the soul. The first breath of morning entered her like a whisper of renewal. Her body was still, her mind soft, but something deep within was alive, radiant, reborn. The energy of the night had not disappeared. It had transformed. What had begun as rest had become revelation. She realized now that healing had never been about addition, but subtraction, removing the layers of doubt, fear, and hurry that had covered her natural brilliance. Underneath it all, her essence had never aged. Her glow had only been waiting for her to remember. The same intelligence that renews forests after fire was now renewing her from within. Her cells were clear, her energy balanced, her thoughts light as silk. The sunrise outside was only a reflection of what had already risen inside her. She felt herself smiling, not with her lips but with her spirit. For so many years she had associated morning with pressure, with doing, with proving. But this morning felt different. It was not the beginning of another race. It was the continuation of a sacred rhythm. She was still in the ceremony of night, only now the light had joined her. Even her heartbeat felt new, steady, rhythmic, gentle. It no longer rushed to catch up with time, it flowed with it. She could feel that her body had changed in the simplest, most profound way. It had remembered balance. The stress that once hardened her features had softened. The fatigue that once dimmed her eyes had lifted. The quiet miracle of sleep had turned into the quiet miracle of being. She thought of the women who would hear this same truth. Those who felt their youth slipping away, who stood in front of mirrors wondering where their glow had gone. She wished she could tell them what she now knew, that beauty is not a battle. It is a surrender. That rejuvenation begins the moment you stop trying to be younger and start allowing yourself to be timeless. That sleep, when held as a sacred act, is more powerful than any serum because it connects you to the original source of life. She remembered the ancient saying, "When a woman sleeps in peace, the world heals a little." It made sense now. The energy she carried in her rested body would ripple into her words, her eyes, her presence. Her calm would soften others. Her light would remind others of their own. Beauty was never selfish. It was service through radiance. She could feel this truth anchoring itself into her being as naturally as breathing. Every breath reaffirmed, "I am renewed. I am safe. I am whole." Her subconscious absorbed it like sunlight on open skin. She understood now that healing was not something she had to maintain. It was something she had to trust. The body knows. The soul knows. The night knows. The only thing that forgets is the mind. And tonight her mind had finally remembered. She had seen the proof. Her reflection no longer mattered as much as her vibration. Because when you vibrate peace, beauty follows. When you vibrate gratitude, the world bends toward you. When you vibrate love, the body cannot help but glow. She was not the same woman who had fallen asleep. She was lighter, fuller, freer. She had walked through the dark and found not loss, but grace. The lines on her face no longer looked like evidence of time, but like the writing of wisdom, the poetry of a life deeply lived. She could almost laugh at how long she had feared what was always meant to be sacred. Aging had never been the thief. Fear had. And now even fear had dissolved into softness. The lesson was clear. What you bless, blesses you back. When she began blessing her body instead of criticizing it, it responded with gratitude. When she began blessing her sleep instead of ignoring it, it gave her back her glow. When she began blessing her years instead of resisting them, they transformed into beauty. There was no war left to fight, only peace left to embody. She understood now that the night was not separate from her. It was part of her cycle, part of her design. The moon within her body, the rhythm of hormones, intuition, rest, had always known this truth. Every month, every season, every breath had been guiding her back to the same place, the sanctuary within. She was no longer chasing youth. She was embodying eternity. And that realization filled her with a calm so deep, it almost felt holy. She thought of the words that had guided her through the night. You are not aging. You are remembering. Remembering that beauty is not found but allowed. Remembering that time cannot touch peace. Remembering that when you sleep in faith, you awaken in light. She could feel the resonance of these truths moving through her cells like soft golden waves. Her skin tingled with vitality, her heartbeat was music, her breath was prayer. Every part of her was alive, but in a different way, not loud, not hurried, just whole. This was the gift of the night, the return to the natural rhythm that sustains all life. She no longer needed to believe in miracles, because she had become one. When she opened her eyes, she knew the world would look different, not because it had changed, but because she had. Her perception had been healed, her vibration lifted. She would see beauty in the wrinkles of others, in the laughter of the old, in the stillness of her own reflection. Because once you remember your timelessness, you begin to see it everywhere. She smiled again, this time fully, knowing the glow she felt within would soon reflect outward. It was not vanity, it was gratitude, the kind of gratitude that shines brighter than youth. As the final traces of night faded, She felt one last whisper rise through her. Every night is a new chance to be reborn. Softer, brighter, younger. Sleep deeply and let your beauty remember who you are. If this night ritual touched your heart, imagine what the next secret will do. Subscribe and awaken your most radiant self.